Hello everyone. My name is Dung, and I'm 30 years old. I live alone and I don't have any children. I once had a small family, and I truly believed I would spend the rest of my life with the person I loved. But one day, my husband chose to leave me for another woman, and I was left to face life on my own. There were times when I felt like I would never be able to get back on my feet, but life goes on, and little by little, I learned how to become stronger every single day. This is my new, rented home. I've been living here for 5 days now. The thing that makes me happiest is that I managed to rent this house for a price I never imagined was possible, just $200 for an entire year. Whenever I tell people that, they usually think I'm joking, but it's true. Today, I'm going to share the story of how I found this beautiful and spacious house, and why the landlord agreed to rent it to me for such an unbelievably low price. The house I rent is tucked away halfway up a mountain, far from the town center, so the atmosphere here is incredibly peaceful. The road leading to the house is just a dirt path. After every rainfall, it becomes muddy and slippery, and there are sections where I have to walk very carefully. One thing that surprised me the most is that this house doesn't have a fence or even a gate. Anyone can simply walk in from the road and enter the yard. Sometimes that makes me feel a little uneasy, because if someone with bad intentions came by, it could be a real problem. But then I can't help laughing at myself, because the truth is, I don't really own anything valuable, apart from my motorbike, which I rely on to get around. The most precious things in my life are the animals I care for. The house I'm living in is surrounded by lush green forests. Most of the land around here is covered with eucalyptus trees that local people grow for timber. Apart from 2 other houses scattered nearby, everything else is just forests and rolling hills. The house I'm living in is surrounded by lush green forests. Most of the land around here is covered with eucalyptus trees that local people grow for timber. Apart from 2 other houses scattered nearby, everything else is just forests and rolling hills. The mosquitoes and ants here are far worse than I ever imagined. If I leave the door open for just a short while, the house quickly fills with mosquitoes. As for the ants, they seem to be everywhere on the floor, on the dining table, and even inside food that I thought I had stored carefully. To be honest, I never thought about any of this before deciding to rent this house. When I first came to see it, all I noticed was a spacious, quiet home, surrounded by beautiful green trees. I thought it would be the perfect place to start a new chapter of my life. Sometimes I even joked to myself that maybe the landlord knew this all along, but wisely chose not to mention it. If they had told me beforehand, I probably would have needed a few more days to think before agreeing to rent this place. This house has a living room and 1 bedroom. When I first moved in, I imagined I would organize everything neatly, but the reality is that things are still quite messy. At first, I stacked all of my boxers in the living room. Then, just 2 days after moving in, a heavy rainstorm lasted throughout the night. When I woke up the next morning and walked into the living room, I was shocked to see puddles of water all over the floor. A few of my boxers had already gotten wet. I quickly checked around the house and discovered that 1 corner of the roof was leaking. I guess that's probably one of the reasons why the rent for this house was so cheap. So, if you notice that my bedroom is now packed with boxers and belongings, that's the reason why. If there's one thing I love most about this house, it's definitely the bathroom and the toilet. They're both relatively new, clean, and well-maintained. In fact, this is probably the nicest bathroom I've ever had in any house I've rented. If I had to choose the place that gives me the most mixed feelings in this house, it would probably be the kitchen. It's very simple. To be honest, it's old and a bit run down. The roof is covered with aging clay tiles, and the walls inside have never really been painted, giving the whole place a rough, unfinished look. It's also small and cramped, but when I think about it a little more, I can't help but smile. The kitchen may be old, it may leak when it rains, and it may not be beautiful, but every single day, it's where I cook the meals that keep both me and the little animals waiting for me. Outside well fed. After living here for 5 days, I finally understand why such a spacious house is rented out for such a low price. At first, I only saw its advantages. A large house, a peaceful atmosphere, beautiful green and a rent of only $200 for an entire year. At that moment, I felt incredibly lucky to have found a place like this. But once I started living here, the reality gradually revealed itself. The roof leaks whenever it rains. There's no gate and no fence, so anyone can walk straight into the yard. The dirt road leading to the house is far from the town center, and after every rainfall, it becomes muddy and slippery. Because the house is surrounded by so many trees, mosquitoes and ants are part of everyday life. The kitchen is old, cramped, and also leaks when it rains. And although the bathroom and toilet are clean and modern, they're built separately from the house, so going outside during a rainstorm can be quite inconvenient. It probably sounds like this house has a lot of flaws, and maybe that's exactly why the landlord was willing to rent it out for such a low price. When you think about it, I'm paying less than $20 a month for a place this spacious. This house may not be perfect, but I believe that as long as it's filled with laughter, love, and warmth, it will become a true home for both me and the little family I'm building here. Right now, I live with 5 dogs and 1 cat. Many people have asked me how much I paid for them, but the truth is, I didn't buy a single one of them. Each of them came into my life in a different way. Some had been abandoned on the side of the road. Some were wandering the streets with no owner in sight. Others were injured, starving, and seemed to have been forgotten by everyone. I simply happened to cross paths with them at the moments when they needed a helping hand the most. Maybe it was simply fate. I never planned to have so many animals, but whenever I saw a tiny life trembling in the rain or wandering the streets in search of food, I just couldn't bring myself to walk away. And so, 1 became 2, then 3. Until today, my little home is shared with 5 dogs and 1 cat. They can't speak, and they can't tell me how they feel with words. But every time I come home, they all run to the door to greet me, their tails wagging with excitement. This is Peter and her puppy. I have to keep Peter on a chain because she can be quite aggressive and might bite strangers. Since my house doesn't have a gate, people can easily walk past or into the yard. Peter may mistake them for intruders trying to steal from my home, so I keep her restrained to prevent any accidents. This is Engao. He's a Japanese mixed breed dog with black and white markings that make him look just like a little dairy cow. To be honest, he's incredibly playful and full of energy. He's always running around, exploring everything, and somehow finding new ways to make me laugh. I rescued him after he got lost. This is Fat Tai. I rescued him after he was abandoned at a garbage dump. When I found him, he had a large wound on his neck. Thankfully, with time, care, and proper treatment, it has completely healed. Another reason I find the rent for this house very low is that it has land for growing plants. Today, I decided to sow the first water spinach seeds. Although the task is simple, it makes me feel very excited at a time when I have to carefully budget every expense to support myself and care for my animals. Having a small vegetable garden helps me save a significant amount of money. I hope that in about a month, when my first batch of water spinach is ready to harvest, I'll be able to share that simple joy with all of you. It may not seem like a big achievement, but sometimes happiness begins with the little things like sitting down to a meal with a plate of vegetables that I grew with my own hands. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video and explore my affordable little home with me. Your support, your kind words, and every single view mean more to me than you know. They give me the motivation to keep going and continue sharing my journey with all of you. I'll see you in the next video.